I was in the gym just going, wow, I'm glad I chose this path.
And Greg's 70s afro will be inducted in a separate ceremony.
So Mark, let me get this straight. There's men's beach volleyball in the Olympics?
Welcome, sports fans, to this week's edition of Sports with Aurora. Yours truly, Lowell McClain.
That's what gets you into the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame.
Bobby Orr, how about that? Stand up, Bobby Orr. Let's give a hello to everybody.
Our next inductee is a great friend of mine. Been great friends for years. Love the guy. Heavily involved in golf. And it goes to show you that you don't have to be a good golfer to get involved in golf. So quite frankly, I think you suck at it, right, Jim? I think you do. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. I suck at it too. There's Tiger, there's Woods, right here. Jim's short game is unbelievable. Unfortunately, it's off the tee. You'll get that later. I joke with him because he's a great buddy of mine, a great golf buddy. We've shared a lot of good times together. And I can't think of someone who is more deserving of this. He is someone who has been like a Superman for golf in Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, to the video screens, please welcome to the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame, Jim Clark.
James Frederick Clark was born on April 21st, 1957 in Midland, Ontario. One of Jim's earliest memories of golf is truly out of this world. At 12 years old, when the rest of the world was glued to the television watching the Apollo 11 mission, Jim and his father stepped out for some air and played an evening round of golf. As the sun was setting on the Midland Golf and Country Club, they stared up at the glowing moon in amazement and disbelief that there were humans attempting to land on its surface. Jim never considered himself to be an avid or a very good golfer, but he was always a fan of the PGA Tour. In 1976, he was part of the curling team that won the Ontario Colts Championship. In 2002, the team was inducted into the Midland Ontario Sports Hall of Fame. After university, Jim moved to Toronto to work in the computer industry and often attended the Canadian Open at Glen Abbey as a fan. One day, while curling, Clark met a man by the name of Brian Petrie, who was wearing a Canadian Open Committee shirt. Brian invited him to volunteer, but due to scheduling conflicts, Jim declined. In 1984, Clark was in the midst of changing jobs, and the Canadian Open was taking place during the week he was off. He decided to take up Brian's invitation, and the rest is history. In fact, he hasn't missed one since. A major inspiration throughout his volunteering career has been Mr. Canadian Open Dick Grimm, because of his leadership, encouragement, and mentorship.
Jim's a very caring, non-assuming person, and I think you're going to be very happy that you have him in your Aurora Hall of Fame. It's certainly well-deserving. Well, I think he really cares, and he wants everything to be perfect. I think he's a perfectionist, and he comes very close to making it perfect. He's just, he's very organized.
Jim has been the tournament chair 11 times. He was tournament chair for the 2001 and 2019 Canadian Women's Open and the inaugural 2014 World Junior Girls Championships. In 2001, for the first time in RCGA history, Clark was the first public player elected to the Board of Governors of Golf Canada. He was on the Professional Champions, Audit and Risk Management, Heritage, Human Resources, and Sports Committees, using his expertise for the betterment of the sport. He was the sport chair for golf competition for the 2015 Pan Am Games in Toronto and for the 2017 Invictus Games.
His personality is infectious, it's fantastic, but also, on the other side, his organization skills. For years and years, he was the person who organized the volunteers, and the volunteers are like 1,200, 1,500 people. So if you're not organized, it's kind of tough to keep track of 1,500 people. So it's amazing that he balances life so well. Greatest personality, but also his organizational skills are second to none.
I think the best
The way to characterize what Jim brings to that job is that he can kind of relate to everybody on every different level. So whether the person is older or younger or male or female or a golfer or not a golfer, you know, he has the ability to kind of make them feel comfortable, make them feel special. And that's a really important quality and a very rare quality, I think. And I think it's when you're dealing with so many people from so many different aspects of life, to be able to do that and do it consistently over so many years is a really, really amazing feat.
In 1988, Jim and his young family moved to Aurora because they liked the community and some friends and family already lived here. From 1993 to 2000, Jim's children played soccer with the Aurora Youth Soccer Club, and Jim helped coach their teams. He has also been an active volunteer with the Aurora United Church. In 2012, Jim married Sandy and is the proud father of Stuart, Ian, and Heather, stepfather of Morgan, and a newly minted grandfather of Rory.
First of all, Jim is one of the nicest gentlemen you'll meet in your life. I mean it sincerely. I know it gets thrown around a lot. Everyone thinks that such a great person, but Jim knows everyone, and everyone that knows Jim, or all my friends who have met him, they love Jim. His accomplishments, like first of all, you know, he was a really world-class curler as a young man too, and still curls. But even, you know, with the Canadian Open, you know, RBC Canadian Open, the CP Canadian Women's Open, he's been, you know, I've been involved probably 25 years, and he's been involved much longer than I have. You know, he came from a volunteer. He came up through the ranks. I remember he used to take care of the caddies, and of course he became tournament chairman. I'll tell you, he does it tirelessly. This is not an easy job. I was lucky to be the president of Angstman Golf Club, where we hosted the RBC Canadian Open twice and the CP Women's Open once. And it's not a week-long job. People see here for a week, it's a year-long job. And here's Jim, you know, he's a volunteer. So for him to be doing this painstakingly for, like, call it 30 years, over 30 years, it's amazing, his accomplishment.
Jim was awarded the Golf Canada Distinguished Service Award in 2016 and was a finalist for the PGA Tour Volunteer of the Year Award in 2017.
You know, the job that he's had as a volunteer chairman requires you to make sure that everything is organized, everything's in place from start to finish, and it's always moving. It's kind of like a moving target, so you've got to be able to react quickly, to have a plan set up, but be willing to make that plan changeable at a moment's notice when things happen, when weather comes in, when a player drops out, when some of the volunteers don't show up. So you've got to be able to react quickly, and Jim has that great skill to be able to do that, which is such a necessary skill for this job.
Jim's never-say-never attitude and his passion for all the parts that make up professional golfing, from behind-the-scenes management to the event itself, is what sets him apart. Going from being the president of a computer company with 25 employees to managing 1,500 volunteers is a challenge he has relished. Never did he imagine that his involvement would span more than 35 years, and as the champion of volunteers, he has seen thousands of volunteers come and go.
Congratulations, Jim. Well deserved. You work just forever for nothing. And I've enjoyed so much being your friend. Congratulations. Well-deserved honor for you.
Congratulations, Jim, on your induction to the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame. Well-deserved, you know, behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. You've done it so well for 35 years. I'm so proud of you as a great friend, and enjoy the evening.
Jim, congratulations on going into the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame. When Golf Canada has ever needed a great chairman to do a tough job when nobody else would do it, you always stepped up. So for that, and for all our years of great friendship, including on the curling ice, congratulations.
And now, in recognition of his contribution to the sport of golf, we are proud to welcome James Frederick Clark into the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame.
I'd like to call up the presenting sponsor. I'd like to thank Magna, where we recently had the CP Canadian Women's Open. Mike Hardman is up to help present the sweater and the plaque to the Canadian Open winner of volunteerism, Jim Clark. Here, I'll get your jacket for you. You don't get a green jacket, you get a green sweater. That's how it works. That's even better. champion curler, all-out volunteer. Everyone loves Jim. Aurora Sports Hall of Famer, Jim Clark.
Thank you, Rod, and indeed, he and I are very dear friends, and I was so thrilled when they said, you know, it's such a big event, and we even had Rod Black as the MC. I thought, oh my God, I hope he doesn't tell any stories of our travels together. And he hasn't yet, so I'm very blessed. But thanks, Rod. You know, Rod is a very charitable person, and he used to run a tournament in his hometown of Winnipeg in Transcona. And I had the pleasure of going to it a handful of times, where Kevin Thistle, who just spoke, he and I would go out. And of course, he had athletes like Paul Henderson and Donovan Bailey and Kevin and me. And you know, it was an amazing event. And been to his family home. And so we've been to the East Coast to Cape Breton and to the West Coast to Vancouver golfing. And it's so nice to have you close here, pal. In addition, he also married a girl from Midland, as did the president of our Sports Hall of Fame, Dave Tom. So like, we Midland boys had to leave town because all these good-looking out-of-town guys came and got all the good ones. So we have another link, and Dave's wife Dale is a Midland girl as well. Anyway, unlike my new dear friend Reg, I don't have much of a speech. I'm kind of going to just thank some dear friends who've made this possible tonight. I would like to say it's been so nice to meet the other inductees this year. Great sportsmen and leaders in your own individual sports, and it's wonderful to come together here, and it's so nice we have this opportunity. I'd like to thank an old friend of mine, Rob Brissenden, who nominated me, who was a neighbor, and we used to ski at Mansfield together, and last spring, I think he and Ron Weiss, I was meeting them over the Canadian Women's Open and getting Sport Aurora involved to volunteer, and they said, there's one other thing, you've been nominated to the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame. I went, pardon? You've been nominated to the Sports Hall of Fame. We were in a pub in town. I said, can I have another beer, please, as Rod would suggest. I said, why? And they said, well, you know, it's come to our attention that you've been 35 years in professional golf and living in Aurora, and you know, there's a builder category, and we think you're worthy. And I went, okay, well, that's pretty cool. Okay, yeah, that's exciting. So, and then thereafter, I would like to also thank the selection committee, the anonymous selection committee, to think that I might be worthy of this honor. It's just wonderful. As well to Magna International, to Mike Hardman, who presented this to me. You know, being an Auroran, Magna has a very high presence in this community, from kids playing soccer in the field to the hoedown and everything that I've touched. However, I'd never, maybe once, ever been in the gates of the Magna Golf Club until this year. And it's kind of like St. Andrews, you know, you just drive by and you don't get in. And they were so generous in offering their golf course this year for our CP Women's Open that I was privileged to chair. And so it's wonderful that Magna chose to present this to me tonight. Also, thanks to St. Andrews College. You know, this is a first-class event tonight, and the committee does such an amazing job. And to have it at a venue such as this, thank you, St. Andrews, for sharing it with our community. I referenced Dave Tom, the president of the Hall of Fame committee. You know, I am involved with Golf Canada's Heritage Committee, and my dear friend Megan back there, the director of Heritage. And we have a Hall of Fame, and we have an induction, and we have RBC sponsors, and money, and Canadian Open, and all the big show. I am so impressed by the group that pulls this together. And I've said it at every turn, from the video production to this evening, all of the care they've given us. Dave, and to your committee and to your board, congratulations. You really do the town proud. To that amazing video, and I've been told I will get a copy of it. I can't wait. Watch it again. To the three people that were so kind to be interviewed at the CP Women's Open last August at Magna. I don't know whether you know, those are three celebrities in Canadian golf. I'm not a celebrity, I'm a behind-the-scenes person. Marlene Street, the first woman who spoke, is the only Canadian in the World Golf Hall of Fame. Think about that. She's in there with Arnold and Jack. You know, she is the only Canadian in that, and a wonderful friend. It's one of the beauties of being involved in sport, that you meet people that you never otherwise would become engaged with. My office in Markham, I was heading up the Heritage Committee of Golf Canada, and Marlene was on the committee with Dick Grimm, and they would come to my office and just meet with me. And here I had this legendary Canadian golf person. And it's ageless, the game of golf, what it's allowed for me. Bob Weeks, TSN broadcaster like our friend Rod. He and I have started curling together 40 years ago, I guess, before I was involved in golf and before he was involved in golf. Now he's a member of the Canadian Golf Hall of Fame, the Canadian Curling Hall of Fame, and many other golf halls of fame. In fact, tonight is the Etobicoke Sports Hall of Fame induction, and two of my good friends have to be at it instead of being here, so it's an unfortunate coincidence. Kevin Thistle, the other gentleman, a dear friend of Rod's and mine, who those of you who are golfers would know him from the Angus Glen Club, and just a great friend. Also Golf Canada. Golf Canada is the national sport organization for golf, appointed by the Canadian government, and I've been blessed to have been a governor for a long time. And they are here tonight. They bought a table, my dear friends. Thank you. And indeed, the video referenced when I was a boy and I was invited to volunteer at Glen Abbey by a man named Brian Petrie that I met curling. Brian is here tonight. Thanks, Brian. In addition, I have some curling pals from Thornhill. Thanks, guys. And it's very hard to surprise me, but I was really surprised tonight when a group of friends came. These are my go-to support group for the Canadian Open. And anything I need, they will do. And in fact, this past August, when we had the Women's Open at Magna, we needed a little help in some of the committees, and I reached out to this group, and many of them came to Aurora. They all live miles and miles away. They took rooms at Sheridan King campus, and they stayed over, and they did a great job for us. And in fact, Mayor Maracas, I'm off script totally here, I'd never met Tom till the Women's Open, and he was very engaged in it and front and center and all of it. And at one point I said, you know, I've brought some volunteers from Oakville and Halton and Peel to come and volunteer, and they've paid their own way and they're staying here. And I said, tomorrow night we're going out, you know, to have dinner in Aurora. And he said, I'll come and see you. I thought, oh yeah, right. So the next night, this group here, we're in a restaurant here in town, and in came the mayor. He walked in, he came over to the table and thanked them for volunteering and helping our town and all this. I said, well, that's great, nice to see you. Are you here to see someone? He said, no, I told you I'd come to see you. Thank you very much, Tom, much appreciated. The other group, of course, that never gets thanks is your family. I get teary about my friends, I may get teary about them. Right here. You can't give the number of years. I started doing this before any of them were born. And you can't give the time away without them sacrificing too. And I thank them. I even have a new grandson, as the video referenced, who's not here tonight, and his name's Rory. How good a name is that for a golf fan? And then Rory McIlroy won the RBC Canadian Open in Hamilton a couple of months later, so it was the perfect closure. You know, I've really loved all the relationships that I've built through the years, that people I never ever would have met, and it's been so special. I grew up in a small town of Midland of 10,000 people then, And my parents were very active volunteers and instilled in me the power of volunteering and what you get back from that. I think that's what probably drew me to volunteer that first year with Brian and do it the next 34 years thereafter. With each of the sports that we represent here tonight, hockey, gymnastics, and swimming, and golf, and all of the other sports that Sport Aurora cover. I think I made a note today, Ron, it's 42 sporting organizations with 2,500 volunteers here in the Aurora base of all the sports. It's just incredible, the grassroots and the relationships that they're building and what they're doing for the community. It's just wonderful. And in Aurora as well, the opportunity to volunteer with the Neighborhood Network. I checked and spoke with Steve Hinder tonight. Indeed, they have 14,000 registered volunteers. There's so many ways that you can volunteer in this town. And even on their website today, you don't need to sign up for a year-long or a 35-year commitment. They need volunteers for the Santa Claus Parade, one night. So I would challenge you to perhaps put your hand forward to volunteer. What you'll get back is incredible. You know, at our tournaments, we have between 1,000 and 1,500 volunteers, and one of the things that I pride myself in from Mr. Grimm way back is to appreciate and thank the volunteers. And so in closing, I would just say to you that whether it's at an arena, the hoedown, or this weekend when you go to the liquor store and you see somebody selling poppies, thank that volunteer. It'll make you feel good and them feel even better. So that's it for me. Thank you so much. I will treasure this forever. And Aurora was a great town to move to in 1988 and certainly remains that way. Thank you.
Jim Clark, everybody, a guy with a heart the size of Aurora. Doesn't take much. Just put your hand up, volunteer. The next thing you know, you get in the Hall of Fame. That's how it works. You deserve it. I've never met anybody like Jim Clark in my life, and we need more Jim Clarks in our world. So thank you, Jimmy.